Welcome back to the Irish Bandit channel, or if you're new here, welcome. I, as always, am your host, the one, the only, the second Irish Bandit. Today on the channel, we're just going to take it a little chill today and just talk about something that's been really near and dear to my heart as of late. A while back, I said I was stepping away from YouTube to focus more on writing, which I have done, and I've done quite a bit of it over the past almost 2 years now, now that I think about it. When I first started to start writing, it was at just the beginning of the pandemic, and I didn't know where it would take me ultimately. And I can say now that I've written a manuscript in full. I've gone over it quite a few times, doing 3 different drafts of the story, and every time I go over it, I keep reading it and I keep finding different things to change and add and all that, and I'm really happy with what I wrote. Now, if you haven't seen the past video where I was saying goodbye, I was talking about it then. See, I always have enjoyed the detective noir novels, the old black and white Humphrey Bogart types, where you have the really good jazz in the background playing, the Sam Spades and the. Funny enough, one of my favorite cartoons when I was a kid was the show Dog City from Jim Henson. Had the private eye dog Ace Hart. Well, I wrote a noir detective novel called Shade Falling. It had an original name before that, but I didn't like that name. And I thought Shade Falling just sounded so much better. And it goes with the story because the villain of my story, it goes by the name Shade. It is about a detective named Jack Hart, who used to be a detective for a police department, fictional town of River Run that I created. He was one of the few good cops on the force, where the rest of the cops on the force were just on the take, including a fellow detective that he was always butting heads with, and the police commissioner before his best friend took over. So, in the story, Jack meets a fellow detective from Boston named Lucy Diamond. She comes to him with the case of a stolen art piece called Golden Sunrise, where everything that goes on in the book or the manuscript, I should say, it's not a book yet. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. But everything that goes on in the story, it just happens where something will happen, and then it just gets pulled away, and you're back to square one. That's what I wanted. One step forward, 2 steps back. That's exactly what I wanted from the very beginning when I started writing this. It was funny because when I started, I had the beginning and I had the end. I just need to get everything else in between. I think I did that really well. And with one of the things that happens at the end of the book, I don't want to give too much away because I'm not considering it. I do want to get this published because I think I have always said to everyone I've talked to about this, you always say you're your own worst critic, and every time I read the manuscript over and over again, it's like, oh man, I wrote something special, honestly and truthfully, and I am very proud of what I wrote. And I'm not gonna sit here and say it's the greatest thing ever, because that would just be really egotistical on my part, and that's not me at all. But do I think what I wrote is good? Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I've had a few friends read. I had a few friends read the original draft after it was done, and even they were like, "Dude, this is really good. You did a good job here." I don't think they've read. Since I did the 3rd chapter. I know, well, 3rd draft, I mean. I know they haven't read that, but I don't think they read the 2nd draft either. But it was funny because when I wrote the original draft, it was 10 chapters, and then I thought I was done. went back looking through my notes and like, oh, there is a thing that I totally left out of the story. So I went back and I wrote 2 additional chapters, bumping it up to 12 chapters, and I was very happy about that. When I finished the 3rd draft here just recently, I set a goal for myself because the original draft came in about 14,000 words, I'm sorry. Came in just over 14,000 words. So when I was doing this 3rd draft here, I was going through everything and I was telling one of my best friends, I have a goal to make this, I have a goal to get this to 20,000 words. And I went way past that. I think I ended up with like 20,800 words over that. And I was so happy with that. Shade Falling really began from an idea I had because I was scrolling through Instagram one day and I follow Ayanna Wade from Channel Awesome. And when Channel Awesome was doing a con visit, she took this black and white photograph of her in a fedora looking like something out of a pulp novel. And I was like, I have an idea for that. And that's where the idea of Lucy Diamond, Jack wasn't even the original idea. It just, the idea of Lucy came from that picture. And I'm like, I can do something with that. And I think this was a year or 2 before the pandemic started. And then it just took the pandemic to make me sit down and go, okay, let's flesh out this story. And like I was saying previously, I had the beginning and the end, and when it came to the end, I had a tough time with that because I had an idea in mind for what was going to happen. Like I said, I don't want to get too much into this because I want people to read it, but if you're one of the few that have read my manuscript, you know what I'm talking about here when I say what originally was chapter 9 is now chapter 11. But it came to a big decision for me for the manuscript. Do I do this or do I do this? And it all came down to a flip of the coin for me when I asked myself, well, what do I want to do? Am I going to do this or this? Flip the coin. The coin said do this, and that's exactly what happened. And I'm not going to lie, I still look back on that and I still get emotional reading that part. But I think it was the right call to make when ultimately comes down to it, because it just brings Jack's character. It brings Jack's character around, and I think it was I had one friend say that they actually cried at that part, and that's one thing as a writer you go when you hear that, because that is the reaction you want. You want people to say, yeah, I cheered so hard at this part when this happened, or I cried when this happened. You know, got it. But yeah, I took a lot of inspiration from a lot of different sources when it came to characters in this book. Like, I really didn't have anything at first for Jack, but then I saw this picture of Walking Dead star Andrew Lincoln, and it just had that chiseled look that I wanted, the flat top, everything that I wanted in my hero. Like I said, for Lucy, I took inspiration from Ayanna Wade. Also from Channel Awesome, I put in a couple characters, Holly Anders and Wally Boyd, who are based off of Heather Roos and Walter Benasiak from Channel Awesome. Jack's ex-girlfriend, Tabitha Shore. I got that inspiration from Callie, who used to be on The King of Random. There's a nightclub owner in my book called Chester Towns. I modeled him after Rockstar Spud or Drake Maverick, who used to work for the WWE. And there are even some things for personal connections of mine. I have a place called homeless shelter called St. Genevieve's, named after one of my friends. Where it's at, the street is on, is named after her oldest son. J.D. Drake is named after one of my best friends, character in the book. Lewis King is also named after one of my best friends. There's a part where Lucy and Jack are having this conversation while being shot at. Lucy says to Jack, you know, you're going to owe me dinner after this, Jack. And he just yells back to her, I know a great place, I'll have a 10th on the tour. That's another one of my best friend's maiden name. So a lot of personal inspiration came from this, whether it be from people I admire or people in my life who I know and love. And a lot of people have said, yeah, I've noticed those personal connections as well, especially when you get to the like St. Genevieve's, Warren Street, 10th and Latour, J.D. Drake, Lewis King. And it's very funny. It is really funny because talking about Lewis King and the way I wrote him, I only had one person in mind anytime I wrote any of his dialogue. If you've ever seen shows like The Shield, Justified, Sons of Anarchy, the only person that I could think of as Lewis King is Walton Goggins. Just he can do that southern accent that I wrote for King, and he would just give those lines so well. So if this ever becomes a movie, oh my god, they have to cast Walton Goggins as Lewis King. It would be amazing. But the manuscript isn't the only thing that I've been writing either, because on the side, just to keep myself fresh, I've also been writing fan fiction. Now, I know what you're thinking when you hear fan fiction. Ooh, fan fiction. Ooh, that's got to be dirty. Well, you're kind of half right on that one. I'll get to that in a little bit, but yes, actually, with the writing I've been doing for the fan fiction thing, I've been doing like DDLC fan fiction. It's a multiple volume running story that I've written with the help of a web-based AI program. The first story that I wrote is, I don't know how to describe it because the first three chapters are okay. The first chapter I have thought about going back and redoing the first chapter of that one because it's all so disjointed. But once you get to the fourth chapter onwards, that's when a cohesive story starts shaping. Because I'm gonna leave a link down below to the two stories that I've written on Reddit so far. Um, the other ones I won't leave links to, but I'll tell you about them. But the first story is kind of a Notsky based one, starting in chapter 3, when we see more about what happens with Notsky in her home life and just the horrible relationship she has with her father. Uh, it it's not it's really not too based around the DDLC characters because I created my own character for that story called Sakura. It's funny because when I started writing the story, I didn't intend it to write it that way. It just kind of happened organically. I always had it in my mind that the main character was going to be male, like in the game. But as I went through the AI program, came up with this female named Sakura. I'm like, let's run with it. And I've come to love Sakura a whole bunch for writing for her. And it's just been an amazing experience. I've been getting some pretty good feedback on it too. So that's something I'm very happy about with that story, series of stories, I should say. And I'm in the midst of writing the third volume right now. Well, the first volume was all about Natsuki. The second volume is all about Yuri and everything she goes through. The third volume is going to be focused more on Monica and her push for perfection, not quest, but push. Because that is going to be the main factor here, is that someone in Monica's life is pushing her towards perfection, and she doesn't want that, and she tries to get ahead any way possible. And also, as that's going on, we're also going to be delving more into I'm going to be delving more, not me. I'm going to be delving more into the relationship between Sakura and Sayori. And I already have the ending written for that story, and oh my god. Another thing that I've done with this story is I've based it really all around music as well, because, I love writing, I love DDLC, I love music. So I've kind of also made a little bit of a soundtrack on Spotify for these stories. Like, each one of the stories is named after a song or two, in the case of the final volume, I mean. The first story, called Second Chance, basically about Natsuki getting a second chance at being a kid again. I named that after the Shinedown song of the same name. Story 2 is called Under Your Scars, one of my favorite Godsmack songs off their new album, the latest album. Volume 3 is going to be called Effin' Perfect. I won't swear here, but named after a Pink song, Pink being one of Sakura's favorite artists. And then the fourth and final chapter is going to be called Maybe It's Time, Life is Beautiful, based off of 2 different 6 a.m. songs. Again, I think those would be bands that would be a band that Sakura would really dig as well. And when I've come with the soundtrack, it's really based on things that happen within the chapters. Like when you look at the first volume, I have the song Story of a Girl by 9 Days. That coincides with the chapter where we really start getting into everything about Natsuki. Second Chance is the final chapter. There's something that happens in volume 2. I won't say again because it's I keep this very family friendly. But something happens in volume 2. I put The Reason by Hoobastank, not only because it's one of my favorite songs, but because it fits so well with everything that happens with Sakura and her girlfriend. And yeah, I made Sakura a 17-year-old, 16-year-old, 17-year-old bisexual girl. So yeah, I love it, honestly. And then you take a look at the other volumes as well. Effin' Perfect by Pink. What's that song? You Wanted More by Tonic. That's the first one. Because when I started putting these soundtracks together, I was really taking inspiration from the American Pie soundtracks. So now we got to address the elephant in the room and the other stories that I've written, because they're not safe for YouTube. That's for damn sure. I've written a couple, 3 erotic stories. I mean, I had a friend read one of them. She absolutely loved the first one. I don't know if she's read the other 2, but yeah, like I said, I'm not gonna link the stories, but you will find a link to the other 2 stories that I've posted on Reddit in the description down below. So yeah, that's me. I've really been enjoying the writing I've been doing lately. I've also been writing the second volume of the Jack Hart series called Damned If You Don't. That is not going as well as the first volume, but I'm still making a go of it, and I'm on chapter 4 right now. I started it last year and I wanted it to be done by Christmas, and I'm only on chapter 4. But I'm gonna try to get it done this year. I guess the good thing is that I don't have any time limits and no deadlines, so I can take my time, walk away from it for a little while, and then sit down and be like, it'll be like that scene in Bruce Almighty. So yeah, and getting back to the Jack Hart books, I've actually planned it all out where I want to write 5 separate stories in the Jack Hart universe. Well, for Jack, and then 2 Lucy stories connecting to the first book, Shade Falling. But that'll happen in due time, and I'm going to keep plugging away at it. I got a good support system. Everybody has been very supportive of my writing, and I just, have to thank everyone for being so supportive and enjoying what I've been doing. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, guys, well, let me know in the comments section down below. Would you want to read a detective novel based on a 1940s detective? Let me know in the comment section down below. While you're down there, also don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. While you're down in the description, there's also going to be a link to my Linktree links where you can find all my social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, my Redbubble store. You can pick up all your Irish Bandit merchandise. We have new merchandise in the shop, including hats, masks, and mouse pads. Go check it out. Get whatever you want down at the description below. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe, and if you're already subscribed, tap the bell and you'll be notified whenever a new video goes live. We are at 130 subscribers as of the filming of this video. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I love you all. Thank you for helping me hit that goal of 100. It means so much to me. I will be back on Thursday talking about why I think Meteora by Linkin Park is a perfect album. And then next Tuesday, I will be right back here with a review of another one of my favorite Netflix series, Disenchantment. And then on the following Thursday, I will be back with another DDLC mod review, this time looking at Exit Music Redux. So hope you join me for that. And I got something big coming in the works. So stay tuned for that. Guys, talk to you again very, very soon.